Baseball is dead. It's the new MLB podcast from DraftKings with me, and guess who's back? Dallas Braden. Yeah, I brought Dallas with me. He's one of the smartest guys in baseball. So I'm very excited to announce this new show where we will be breaking down baseball just as we were before. All the big name guests that you expected before, plus more. We're gonna be tackling college baseball, MLB, Japan, I don't know, Dallas probably played in Taiwan. We're gonna be doing all that. We also brought along my favorite YouTuber as a third mic. Baseball Doesn't Exist. Have you heard of it? Yeah, Joey from that YouTube channel, he's coming too. So it's us three breaking down baseball for you guys every single week. It's gonna be great, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait, and we'll see you there.
Well, how the turntables. DOS Rocket, Jared Carabas, he is here, he is risen, he is joining us now live on The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. What a day, what a thirsty Thursday.
Yeah, congrats on joining the DK family.
Yeah.
Thank you. It feels good to be here. You guys look great. I'm very excited. Today's opening day. We get to talk some baseball. And you know what? The fact that we actually have opening day on opening day, let's just take a moment here to be thankful. Can we do that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. You're so excited you showed up 7 minutes late for the show. That's okay.
Stop it.
We were on a DraftKings meeting. This is my first time being at a company where we have meetings and stuff. I'm like, all right, we got to do a meeting. We got to do this. Before, I mean, there was very, very much hands off. This is very hands on over here.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah, a lot of meetings that should just be an email.
Yeah, just getting started. But yeah, I mean, new CBA, new rules, new season. Like you already kind of mentioned it, but how are we feeling about opening day, man?
I mean, I'm excited. I think, we were just talking about it before. What's your World Series pick? And the fact that you can kind of rattle your brain and there's no real obvious answer besides the Dodgers. Like, no one wants to pick the Dodgers. It's a boring pick. But the fact that outside of the Dodgers, it's kind of a jump ball. I love that. I love the fact that we might have the Toronto Blue Jays might get in the mix. You know, you have the Houston Astros. They're in the ALCS every single year. Well, now they don't have Carlos Correa. So now what's that going to look like? Is the path to the World Series going through Houston still in the American League? We don't know. So that part of it is very exciting to me.
All right, dude, what's really cool, too, is you're going to be pumping out not one, but like two podcasts. Love the title of this one, Baseball is Dead. We kind of saw that in the open of the show because that's what we keep hearing. First episode just dropped. It's live, so everyone go check it out after this award-winning show. But what can we expect from this podcast, Jared?
So the whole thing with Baseball is Dead is we've just always resented, or I always take it personally when someone says that baseball is boring, or during the lockout when you had people being like, oh, baseball is dead, can't get out of its own way. It's not dead. It's not dead. It's actually one of its most exciting periods of all time because of how good the talent is right now, and the fact that crop of talent, they're all in their early 20s. It's insane. The fact that, you have dudes hitting 40 bombs that are like 22 years old, and what Shohei Ohtani is doing right now, arguably the greatest player to ever play the game. I know that that's a drastic statement to make, but tell me someone who's more talented than that guy. So with this show, we are definitely going to have a long list of superstar players that are active, former players. We're going to have content creators get in the mix. We're definitely going to put an emphasis on college baseball because up until a couple of years ago, I didn't realize how electric college baseball really is and how many young, exciting players are playing college baseball right now. So we're gonna spread the love, and we're going to expand the Rolodex in terms of the guests that we're having on this show.
Sweet.
All right, and in your other DraftKings podcast, you're going to have the Red Sox covered. Feels like odds makers are sleeping on Boston again. So, what's your outlook for them? Is the season going to end with a duck boat parade down Boylston?
If it does end in a duck boat parade down Boylston, I'm not going to remember it. I was in that parade in 2018.
Yep.
One of the best. That was the best day of my life. That was the best day of my life. I don't care if I ever get married or have kids. That was the best day of my life, and they're going to know that in advance. I will tell them that. The Red Sox have the fourth best odds in the American League East, which I love that. I would much rather be a good team with low expectations than a good team that's expected to win it all. Being a Red Sox fan, I've been in both positions, and I would say that the more enjoyable campaign were the seasons where the expectations were low and the Red Sox were somehow able to exceed those expectations. And that's where they find themselves this season. And I know that last year there's some similarities with, we're going to be talking about Chris Sale's health. That's going to be the storyline, or one of the main storylines every single year now. But I don't, it is what it is. They find a way. Health is going to be a question mark on any single one of these teams that's looking to contend for a championship. So yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna see how it plays out. In Chaim Bloom, we trust. I have no reason at this juncture to not trust Chaim Bloom. So I am joining my co-host Tyler Milliken of this new Red Sox podcast. He says he's the leader of the Bluminati. I'm a follower.
All right, love it. Yes, we got to get Chris Sale on your workout routine, because dude is Mr. Glass right now. We have another guy here who's jacked just like you. His name is Steve Buchanan. He's one of our baseball gurus here at DraftKings. He actually has a tattoo of your face on his lower back. We're bringing him in now to look at some MLB Futures bets on the DK Sportsbooks. We're going to team you guys up.
I hope you guys know that Emerson writes these lines that he says during the show.
I asked him to put that line in there.
Oh,
yes,
okay,
I know.
good. Steve,
He's like, make this clear for Jared.
I just wanted to make sure. So, Jared, we've talked about all the young talent in the game today. So, whose odds are you looking at to win an MVP award this season?
I mean, Shohei is far and away the favorite, but I do love the fact that Vladdy Jr., I think he has the third best odds. Correct me if I'm wrong. I love that pick. I love the Vladdy Jr. pick, because he, up until, he was competing against the best player of all time, or having one of the greatest single seasons in recorded history in the sport. You take that away, Vladdy Jr. probably wins the MVP last year. He's going to be on a team that is going to be contending for a division title in the American League East. I love the Vladdy Jr. pick.
Yeah, Vladdy Jr. plus 500. Steve, that's your favorite player. Who are you looking at?
So, we can always talk about some of the obvious guys. That's totally fine. If I'm making one of these long shot picks, I want some money coming back. Shout out Robbie Ray, 80-1 to win the Cy Young. I will never not stop talking about that. Talking about Byron Buxton at 20-1. The guy can't stay on the field. But when he is on the field, this guy absolutely rakes. Over the past 2 years, he's played exactly 100 games, 32 home runs, 59 RBI, 11 stolen bases. So if we can actually get Byron Buxton healthy, we need that. The game needs it. We need Byron Buxton. If he's on the field and he's performing, that can be an easy MVP at 20-1 odds. You got to love those odds there.
All right, Bukes, how about in the Cy Young department? How much more open is it to now that DeGrom is going to be out for a little bit?
Yeah, obviously that's a big hit there, but if I want to focus on the American League here with Dylan Cease at 14-1. Last year, this dude was unbelievable through 32 starts, 12.2 K9, 3.41 FIP, and a 1.09 home run per 9 inning. He doesn't let the ball leave the park or anything like that. The problem is he's wasting too many pitches, and that's coming from a guy who's never taken the mound before. But I can see it. He's wasting too many pitches, and that means he's not going deep into these games. So, his true potential, I feel like, isn't even been unlocked yet. And that's scary to think, because that White Sox rotation is going to be extremely tough this year. So we can start getting Dylan Cease to go deeper into these games. He's quickly going to be a name that you're going to keep hearing about. And at 14-1, those odds aren't set correctly for the talent this guy has.
All right, Jared, what about you? Anyone you have your eye on? American League, National League?
Yeah, so the Dylan Cease pick I love, because I threw a tweet out saying, the American League Cy Young field, I feel like it's going to be someone that comes out of nowhere and has never won a Cy Young before. And interestingly enough, people pointed out, well, that could be Garrett Cole, because he's never won a Cy Young before, which is very interesting. Very interesting. A lot of people were picking Dylan Cease. I went with Kevin Gausman. This is an individual that back in 2016, I saw him. It was a pitching duel against Rick Porcello at Fenway Park. He had all the potential in the world, couldn't quite put it together. And then over the last couple of years, we've seen exactly why it was that everyone was building him up and there was so much hype behind him. Outside of the obvious Garrett Cole picks, and then you have Shane Bieber, who is coming off of an injury. after that, you kind of look at the field, and I really like that Kevin Gausman pick in terms of he could be this year's version of Robbie Ray.
All right, guys, we saw the video of the Mariners telling Julio Rodriguez he made the team. So with the new team rules, we know teams are going to have Rookie of the Year candidates up for opening day, right? J-Rod plus 450 to win Rookie of the Year. Who are you looking at, Steve? I mean, this is your team.
Yeah, obviously, anything that has to do with the Mariners is a winning bet because that's just what they do. Real quick, 83.5 wins this year is an absolute joke. DraftKings Sportsbook is so disrespectful. I don't care if they give me a paycheck. That's the worst line I've ever seen in my life. Hammer the over on that. Other than that, the problem with the Rookie of the Year this year is there's so many candidates. We talked about Julio Rodriguez, fine. Haven't even mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. Haven't even mentioned Spencer Torkelson. Even Jeremy Pena, who's taking over at shortstop for the Astros, is somebody to consider. This field is wide open, and this is kind of what Jared was alluding to. This is the best time in baseball in a long time because all of these top prospects, I think it's 3 of the top 5, all made the opening roster this year. All these kids are going to be up here. They're up here for a reason. This is wide open here, but truly, I can't get away from Julio Rodriguez at plus 450. That's my guy. He's going to smash in Seattle. That's my pick.
All right, Jared, it is wide open, but anybody stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, over in the National League, Joey Bart. Like this is if you're the heir to the throne of a guy like Buster Posey. That's some pretty big expectations. You're taking over for a first ballot Hall of Famer that has a lot of hardware, both individually and from a team perspective, but he has the makeup, he has the tools, he has the ability, and he's not the favorite in the National League. I don't know why he isn't. There's a lot of talented players in that crop in the National League, but that's who I've got winning the National League Rookie of the Year this year.
All right, Jared, we'll get you out of here with this. World Series champs, you kind of mentioned it before. You got Dodgers as the favorites, plus 500, kind of the sexy pick, but sexy pick for a reason. Red Sox plus 2,200. Who's your bet?
Between those two or in general?
No, just in general. I was just mentioning the favorite and obviously your team.
Man, you know what? Why not the Toronto Blue Jays?
Okay.
Why not the Toronto Blue Jays? It's been a long time. It's been decades. They have the talent. They have the ability. They have the hunger. And that fan base, man, they've been waiting a long time for this. I think the time is now. Let's get behind the Toronto Blue Jays to win a World Series in 2022.
Okay, second shortest odds there, plus 850. Steven, what about you, dude?
Yeah, if something weird happens and the Mariners don't get there, which is probably some type of conspiracy theory, one of the most complete teams in the league that nobody talks about enough is the Chicago White Sox. Everything is great about that team except the manager. 11-1 odds to win the World Series. I'll take that.
All right, yep, plus 1,100 there.
All
that
right.
was great.
Yeah, you guys are great. Enjoy opening day and catch Steve on MLB Network in 15 minutes. And the first episode of Baseball is Dead with Jared is alive and well. So go watch it.
Okay.
We're going to talk opening day DFS plays after this quick break. We're back here on The Sweat, and we just talked baseball, and guess what?
What?
We're talking baseball.
Masters. Oh, we're talking baseball again. Okay. Tiger Woods
We're talking
teed
baseball
off.
again with our MLB panel, DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne and Matt Meiselman with RotoWire's Eric Halterman.
Woo!
Let's go. MLB opening day best bets. That's what we want. We want to talk about.
Okay, let's start with your favorite player prop for today, Gare Bear.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dylan Carlson over 1.5 total bases at plus 140. We actually just got the Cardinals lineup, and he is in fact batting leadoff, as we thought he would for the duration of spring training. That could mean upwards of 5 plate appearances for Dylan Carlson, which would obviously help a volume-based prop like this one, but really it's his first 2 plate appearances that I'm concerned with, and those are probably going to come against JT Brubaker, who was just absolutely destroyed by left-handed bats to end 2021. His final 10 starts of the season, an 698 slugging percentage to opposing left-handed bats. Carlson, for his career, has tended to be better as a right-handed hitter than a left-handed hitter, but he still had an 800 slugging percentage and a 124 WRC plus batting left-handed at St. Louis last season. So I just think all the pieces come together here for him to go over 1.5 total bases.
All righty, Matty Ice, talk to me.
I'm going to make the same kind of pick as Garion, just from a different game. I like a volume-based prop, too. I'm going to go with over half a run for Kyle Tucker. And maybe this is just because it's still NBA season, and this is the way I think about NBA. So that's kind of why I'm making this selection. But we don't know where Kyle Tucker is going to bat in the Astros lineup yet. I think there's a good chance that he ends up batting second, just based on things Dusty Baker has said and the way that the lineups came out in spring training. If Tucker is at the top of the order, then instead of having a low depth, like weaker hitter version of the Astros behind him at the end of the lineup, he'll have some of their best hitters behind him in the 3, 4, 5, and 6 spots. So that's really important news for Kyle Tucker props, specifically for runs, but also batting second would mean extra at bats. And then as far as the matchup, I think Shohei Ohtani is a good pitcher, maybe not quite as good as people think, but this is more about the lineup slot. And then also that Kyle Tucker has gotten better in each of his seasons in the major leagues. And I just think he's a really, really good hitter. So we're kind of buying low on him a little bit.
All right, Eric with a K, your favorite player prop for today?
Yeah, maybe all pitcher props are risky in their first time through the rotation, given we don't really know about their workloads. But I still like JT Brubaker to go over 4.5 strikeouts here against the Cardinals, mostly because you're getting plus 140 for it. He threw 3.2 innings in his final spring tune-up. I think that means he can get to 5 pretty comfortably here, and he struck out over a bat error per inning last season. That's all he needs to do in 5 innings to hit the over 4.5 against the Cardinals lineup that is, I guess, fine, but not anything more than that. Brubaker had a 5.36 ERA last year, but some of the better ERA estimators had him right around 4. He's a fine pitcher, no business pitching on opening day for a good team, but he was a slightly above average strikeout guy, less walks than average as well. So he's a perfectly adequate pitcher who I think should be able to get 5 strikeouts in 5 innings here.
All right, which game is going over their run total, Matt? Highest run total on the slate, Brewers Cubs, 9.5.
Oh.
So I'm going to go back to the same game. And actually, that game is a little tricky because of the weather going on. We're starting the season with Wrigley weather. So I'm just going to stay away from that for now. And I'm going to go back to Astros Angels, where I think the pitching matchup is a little overvalued, which means I do like the over here at 8.5 runs. And part of it is that I think Ohtani is not quite as good of a pitcher as people think. I think the same is true for Framber Valdez, who I tend to like for DFS and for strikeout props, but in terms of run prevention, I don't think he's as good as maybe his ERA has been in the past. But then also, at this time of year in April, it's cold in a lot of games, but that is not going to be true in Los Angeles, where it is pretty warm today and could be in the 80s during this game. So I think the total may just be underestimating how much the ball is going to travel. Maybe there's some rest for the pitchers because it is opening day. But the big factor for me is the weather, where like in Wrigley, we have cold weather, and in some of these other games, we have cold weather. In LA, I think that we could see the ball flying like it's the summertime because it is a hot day there.
All right, Eric, where are you going for this one?
Yeah, if we were talking over-unders in general, I would definitely say under in that Brewers-Cubs game, assuming the weather cooperates. How can we have a 9.5 in a game that has Corbin Burns in it? That's beyond me. He's the best pitcher in the National League, maybe all of baseball. Last time he went to Wrigley Field, all he did was strike out 15 batters and tie the consecutive strikeout record. So that one, even though Kyle Hendricks isn't much at this stage in his career, no business being 9.5. If we strictly want an under or an over, I think over 7.5 in that Cleveland Kansas City game, even though Shane Bieber, I think, is going to do his part keeping it to the under. Zach Greinke at this stage of his career, I don't think he has much business pitching in a game that has that line set at 7.5. His strikeout rate plummeted last season, dropped from 24.5 all the way to 17.2% last year. I don't think there's much left in his arm. I don't think he's close to an opening day quality starter. I think it should be pretty easy for that total to get to 8, even with Shane Bieber on the other side.
All right, Gary, and yeah, that Cleveland KC game has a total of 7.5. The next lowest is the Pirates and Cardinals at 8.
Yeah, but if we're talking overs here, I think I do like the over in the Mets-Nationals game. Again, East Coast weather, not super appealing to the over. I understand that, although this seems like it is one of the better weather spots on the East Coast starting this off. This game, I believe, is now actually up to 9.5, or it's been moving, kind of fluctuating between 9 and 9.5 this throughout the morning. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this pitching matchup is kind of sneaky terrible. I mean, Patrick Corbin, among the 39 qualified pitchers last season, had the highest ERA and highest FIP in baseball. I mean, his starting this game for the Nationals is really just out of, sheer, I don't know, like desperation, embarrassment. I don't know what you want to call it at this point. And then Taylor Mcgill, I like Taylor Mcgill in terms of his season-long projections, but I do think people have this image of Mcgill coming up for the Mets, sort of coming out of nowhere and being a dominant force, which he was for his first 9 or 10 starts. But his last 7 starts of the season, he had a 6.56 FIP, and he was giving up more than 3.2 home runs per 9. So I think the league started to figure him out a little bit his second time through. So I don't really trust either of these guys to keep the ball in the ballpark. So I think this does go over in Washington.
All right, let's talk about favorite run line or money line bet, Eric.
Yeah, you're not going to get a great payout for this one, but at minus 180, I think you're actually getting a pretty good deal on Atlanta over Cincinnati here. The Reds have just been emptied out over the winter. There is not all that much left there. Nick Castellanos gone in free agency. Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez traded from that lineup, although maybe Suarez isn't the biggest loss there. Sonny Gray, too, on the pitching side. Even minor losses, Tucker Barnhart, Amir Garrett, Wade Miley. The team is just lost, a third of the active roster and many of the best players on that roster. And they're going up against the reigning champs here. I don't think anybody necessarily thinks the Braves are clearly the top team in baseball, but they're, in that top tier or tier 1B going up against a team that isn't going to do much. Tyler Mahle for the Reds is, one of the best remaining Reds. He's a good pitcher, maybe not opening day starter for too many teams. High 3s ERA kind of guy, but he is worse, I think, than Max Fried, who had a 3.04 ERA, which was maybe better than the ERA estimators, but not by a ton. He's not much of a strikeout guy, but he doesn't walk anybody, and he keeps the ball on the ground well. I think he's got a pretty decent advantage over Mahle, and the lineup is quite a big advantage as well. I think this could easily be minus 200 or more in Atlanta's favor.
Gary, what's your favorite run line or money line bet?
Yeah, I think I'll just take the Guardians minus 125. Sort of to Eric's point earlier, I think the name value of Zach Greinke is maybe getting a little too much respect in this particular spot. I think this is one of those games that if we see a similar pitching matchup or this exact pitching matchup in like June, the Guardians are going to be minus 200 favorites. I'm just out on Zach Greinke this season. I think he's cooked. The strikeout rate plummeted last season. Maybe there aren't like a huge amount of like great right-handed bats in this Cleveland lineup, which is really what gave Greinke issue last season. But I do just think that the pitching matchup is so heavily sided towards Cleveland. And while I do think the Royals lineup is better than people are giving it credit for, like I said, I think this should probably be minus 160, minus 170. Maybe even just take a look at the first 5. It's minus 135 for the Guardians if you're really just in on this because of the starting pitching matchup.
All right, Maddie.
Well, I'll break the tie between Eric and Gary on JT Brubaker. Let's just talk about him again. And I'll take the Pirates plus 155. Unfortunately, this line was higher last night, so it has come down a bit. But I still think there's a little bit of value left. And the key point for Brubaker, yes, he's pretty bad against lefties, but this Cardinals lineup today has 7 right-handed hitters and 2 switch hitters, so functionally 2 lefties. He's getting a predominantly right-handed lineup, which is really good for him. And then on the other side, Adam Wainwright is 40 years old, and he burned me so many times over the past couple of years, just exceeding expectations in spots where I thought he wasn't going to be that great. But now he's 40, and this has to be, it just has to be at least a little bit of regression for him in terms of how he pitches this year. And then the Cardinals offense, I just don't think is that great anyway. So all of this adds up to me. Yes, the Cardinals are the better team. they probably have the better pitcher on the mound, but the margins are much closer than the odds are giving it credit for. So I think the Pirates do have a real shot in this game.
All right, good stuff, you three. Opening day.
I can't believe it's here.
We made it.
One of 162.
Yeah.
There's a lot of baseball ahead.
A lot of baseball.
So if you
just
lose today,
getting
don't
started.
panic.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll have plenty of betting advice for you as the season continues. But we are off and running in Augusta. Wow.
Yeah. We have Tiger Woods even through one hole currently. Even through one hole. I repeat.
Okay, well, we couldn't be more excited here at DraftKings. And you should have seen how excited we were earlier. Check it out.
It's a tradition unlike any other. Breakfast.
Some would say it's the most important meal of the day.
Jessie here, getting ready to make her selection.
Looks like she's narrowed it down to a muffin and some granola bars. Could be a pregnancy craving here, and by God, what a selection. She goes with the muffin.
Let's go to the green room now. A good foundation is key to anything.
Especially your face, because that's where your word hole is.
The problem here is, she's starting out with a pretty tough lie. Now on to the trickiest part of the office, the printer.
Let's take you back to the approach. She has installed the driver. She has downloaded the PDF. She has fixed the paper jam. All she has to do now is hit print.
What a shot. What a performance.
History we witnessed today. Crowd really appreciating that one.
All right, let's take a gander here at the Western Conference standings around the NHL. So Vegas losing last night, and then you've got Nashville and Dallas in action tonight. Could be a frantic finish.
Neck and neck.
We've got like a few weeks to go here.
Yeah. And we have our amazing NHL panel here. So let's bring in NHL.com's fantasy editor, Anna Dua, who's joining us for the first time. We're very excited to have her
Congratulations
here.
on the debut.
Thank
This is
you.
huge.
Happy to be here.
And just these two, RotoWire's AJ Scholz and Paul Bruno. They're here all the time. We're still happy. We're still happy you guys are here too. So this is NHL opening face-off. Going to get your top DFS plays for tonight's 10-game slate. Now let's start with some value, because a few high-priced guys we might want to get into our lineups tonight, right? So who's your favorite value play tonight when you got to save some salary? Anna.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with Jake Muzzin for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Muzzin made his return to the lineup in this last game against the Florida Panthers. In that game, he managed to get on the scoreboard. He had 4 shots on net. He had 4 blocks. He had an amazing return to the lineup. And this is his second game back from injury. He hasn't really played much since the end of February, since he was sidelined with that concussion. But before he actually got sidelined, he had 7 shots on net in his past 2 games. And, you know, Toronto, great offensive team, always a good team to roll the dice on, but there are some questions towards the end of their defensive depth. And if you're debating between Muzzin or a guy like Mark Giordano, I would definitely pick Muzzin, and I think he's a great ad.
All right, Paul, who are you going with? And I know you like Anna's pick because that's your team.
I love it, Anna. We're going to double team AJ. Usually I'm the lone soldier here, but thanks for being on my side today. I'm going to pick a Leaf too. I'm going to take Michael Bunting for $4,300. He's riding shotgun with 2 of the hottest players in hockey over the last 2 months, I'll say, Matthews and Marner. And he comes in only $4,300 for a guy who's got 8 points and 24 shots on goal in his last 10 games played. I think it's going to be a special night for the Leafs tonight, celebrating one Austin Matthews' 55th goal. That's a career high for him, and it will also set a club record. Bunting will be in on the play, I'm sure. And then I'm going to also look at anybody that's playing Montreal also gets my consideration. So Dawson Mercer moves up in class, playing second line minutes tonight for the Devils. He's costing only $3,700, 6 points and 6 points in his last 10 games played, 40 on the season. And then finally, Ryan Johansson from Nashville. They visit Ottawa tonight. He's only $4,400 for a guy who's got a point per game pace over his last 10 starts.
All right, AJ, value play. Oh, you're muted,
AJ, you're muted, dude. What's going on with you, man?
Oh,
Come
no.
on. You need to bring your A game. Oh, you're still
Oh,
muted.
God, he's
Okay.
still muted.
All right. Do we have an error? An error. User error, most likely.
All right,
while
we'll come back to you.
Yeah, we will
AJ.
come back to you, hopefully. Who knows? Who's the best center to roster tonight, Paul?
Austin Matthews got to be the guy you got to consider. Like I said, he's going to hit the milestone tonight in Dallas, coming off a streak where he's got 10 goals and 19 points, 54 shots on goal his last 10 games played. But $9,600 a bit steep for me, so I'd go cheaper and give you a couple of names to consider. JT Miller, for instance, on a hot streak, $7,400. He's at Arizona. That's a much better matchup, actually, featuring a guy who has 11 points in the last 10 games with his team desperate for a win to stay in the playoff picture that you outlined. And then Carolina and Buffalo should be a solid matchup for the visitors, featuring Sebastian Ajo for $7,000. This number one center has 8 points in his last 10 games played, pours a lot of shots on goal, and this is a mismatch that could be points night for the Carolina club. And finally, Calgary continues to roll along and has a great matchup tonight in San Jose. So you have to consider Elias Lindholm for $6,900 after scoring a bunch of goals in his last 10 games played while centering that scorching hot top line in Calgary.
All right, Anna, who are you looking at there at center?
It's my first day, but it seems that Paul and I are on the exact same wavelength. You brought up Ryan Johansson earlier, and he was my go-to guy tonight. He's coming off his first career hat trick against a tough team in the Minnesota Wild in his last game. He had 7 shots on goal during that game, too, which is amazing. And he has 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists in his past 2 games. And honestly, I would keep an eye on that entire Nashville first line. They're doing amazing right now. You mentioned how tough the West is, and they're really trying to make their push at the end of the regular season. He's playing with Philip Forsberg. Forsberg is on a 5-game point streak. He has 3 goals, 4 assists during that stretch. And let's not forget Philip Tomasino. He's also doing amazing. He had a 3-point night against Minnesota as well in that game where Johansson got the hat trick. He had 1 goal, 2 assists. So Ryan Johansson would be my pick, but JT Miller, great second. He's doing awesome. 11 points last 8 games.
AJ, can we get a mic check from you?
Yeah!
There he is.
I have no idea. Definitely was not on mute.
You're a wizard.
All right, so just start us with your center first.
All right, center first. So I'm gonna look at Sebastian Ajo here at 7K. I know Buffalo just beat the Hurricanes on Tuesday, but you know that's not gonna happen again. Carolina absolutely is not gonna let that happen. Ajo for 7K comes in slightly less than the top of the board, which is nice. They are going to switch Svechnikov for Teravainen on Ajo's left side, but I don't think it really matters for him. He's also got 14 shots in his last 15 contests, so you get a decent floor out of him there. I think it's a good opportunity to use as many of the Canes as you can tonight against the Sabres. They're not going to get embarrassed again.
All right, bonus question for you, AJ. What about your value play? Do you have a favorite one for tonight?
Yeah, for sure. So there's not a lot of times where you could use the Devils this season. I think tonight against the Habs is a good spot to be in. Igor Sharangovich will be in the lineup. There was some concern that he wasn't going to play. He's just 3,900 tonight. He'll play on the top line with Nico Hischier. 12 points in his last 14 contests. I think another good opportunity to use the Devils tonight when you otherwise might not have for much of the season.
Okay.
All right, AJ, we're going to stay with you just because we're scared that you might get muted
yeah,
again.
Sure. We got to take advantage of his mic working right now.
Do it now.
Yeah, best option at wing, man.
Well, for some reason, despite back-to-back multi-point games and 9 points in his last 8 contests, Jake Guenzo is just 6,200 right now. And that's actually up from Monday when it was 5,800 against Colorado. I think until his price tag gets back over 7K, Jake and Bake is a fantastic wing option without having to pay all the way up to the top of the price range. You just can't underestimate the value of a guy playing with Sidney Crosby and being on the #1 power play for the Penguins.
All right, Anna, who are you looking at the wing position?
Right now, it seems that everyone's favoring the Devils, so I'm going to play devil's advocate, or in this case, Canadians advocate, and I'm going with Cole Caulfield. So Caulfield has goals in his past 2 games. He also has 16 shots on net in his past 5 games. The last time the Canadians played the Devils, he had an assist, he had 4 shots on goal, and he's just been rocking and rolling since Montreal had the coaching change behind the bench. He has 27 points, 15 goals, 12 assists since they made that move, and I think he is definitely one of the best rookie skaters this season, someone to keep an eye on. New Jersey's allowed 22 goals in their past 4 games. So if there's ever an opportunity for Caulfield to keep his goal totals going up, it's tonight.
All right, Paul, wrap us up. Best option at wing.
It seems to have a real ally in Anna. That must bother AJ without his running mate Pete Jensen on today's show, but I'm loving this. I love the Caulfield call. He was one of my picks, so I'll skip that. because you did a great job, Anna, summarizing his value tonight. If I'm going to spend up here, I'm going to do so for the big boys who've been rolling along playing video game stats, putting up video game stats of late. That's Mitch Marner for $7,500, 24 points in his last 10 games played, and Johnny Gaudreau for $7,300. You get a guy who's got 18 points in his last 10 games played. I think he gets 2 and goes to the 100 mark tonight. Both guys are, as I said, in video game mode, leading the league over the last 30 games played. Pair these guys with much cheaper options. Caulfield is certainly one of them, but I'll give you 2 more to think about. Jesse Puljujarvi is playing alongside McDavid and Kane versus LA tonight. A very big game for both sides. He's going to cost $4,100. One more motivated guy will be Connor Garland facing the Coyotes from his right wing 2 spot for $4,200 on behalf of the Canucks tonight.
All right, Anna, you absolutely crushed it. Thanks for joining us again today. You are one of us now. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, and great job to you as well, AJ, for getting your mic to work. And Paul, always great to see your handsome face. We will talk some DFS and sportsbook plays on tonight's 7-game NBA slate. So a lot of guys to keep an eye on here as the season comes to a close. It wraps up on Sunday. That's right after this break.
We're looking at the NBA Eastern Conference standings.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, seeding still to be decided. Obviously, the play-in game home court thing.
I know. The play-in tournament's silly to begin with, but that's a conversation for another day.
So we got the 76ers versus the Raptors tonight. That is a potential first-round series.
Yeah, I see them sitting there right in the middle.
Boston at Milwaukee tonight. If Celtics go to 3rd seed, they'd probably play the Bulls, who they crushed last night.
Oh, my God. So, it's like the Bulls this season, when they play a legit opponent, they just crumble. Like, they're pathetic. Remember at the start of the year how hot they were, sitting atop, like, the standings, and everyone's like, oh, my God, they've arrived, finally. No. They're a bunch of phonies. They're a bunch of frauds and cowards. But these two dudes are not. DK Nation's Chinmay Vaidya and RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Good to see you two. So this is NBA shoot-around. Let's get your best DFS and sportsbook plays on tonight's 7-game slate.
So, Nick, who are you going to pay up for in DFS?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that point in the season where, you guys just mentioned in the intro, how stacked up the standings are. Really in both conferences, where you kind of have to start looking and say, okay, is this team going to try? Is there a chance that this team, only plays Giannis, for example? Does he maybe only play a quarter tonight? Do the Bucks want to lose and kind of hang back in that 3 or 4 spot and maybe avoid the Nets in round 1? So it could get a little tricky. Obviously, you're going to want to check your lineups throughout the day. As always, I think we should mention Nikola Jokic sitting at the top of the board at 12,600. He's going up against Memphis. Denver still could catch Utah for the number 5 seed. Not a huge difference there, but maybe a slightly preferable matchup against likely Dallas instead of Golden State. So there is still something on the line for the Denver Nuggets if you want to go with Jokic. For me, if you're targeting Embiid or Giannis, it's a wait-and-see situation. I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of those guys are ruled out. Both of those teams still jockeying for position at the top of the East. One guy I do like, who I think is relatively safe, LaMelo Ball at 9,200 gets a really good matchup against Orlando. He's coming off of 2 really bad games. Charlotte's been blown out by almost 30 in each of their last 2, but that's not going to happen against this Orlando Magic team. And Charlotte could theoretically still catch Atlanta for the number 9 spot in the Eastern Conference, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, 9 versus 10. But, in that first play-in game, that would mean you get that game at home. So very much a game that Charlotte wants to win tonight. I think for it, and I like LaMelo at 9,200.
All right, Chinmay, which guy are you paying up for in DFS?
there's plenty of great options tonight. You have Embiid, Harden, Giannis, and Jokic are all looking like really good plays if they do suit up. And I think that's a really good point that Nick made, that you got to make sure that these guys are actually playing at this time of the season when there could be some shenanigans when it comes to kind of fixing the playoff matchups and trying to get better seeding. I think we'll see that more on Sunday than we do today. But one guy that I really like is Karl-Anthony Towns, and he just had that 60-point game against the Spurs last month. The Timberwolves are still fighting for the chance to get the number 6 seed, and I believe Towns is still under 10K, and he's got a great matchup against a team that he just torched recently. So give me the Timberwolves center as the guy that I'm paying up for tonight.
All right, Chinmay, how about your favorite value play then?
I do feel kind of bad about this because the Trailblazers deserve some sympathy from all of us based on the way their season has gone. But you got to take some Pelicans bench guys. Jackson Hayes, Herb Jones are both in that 5K range. Pelicans are probably going to blow the Blazers out here. And Hayes has been starting recently. He has a double-double in his last 2 games. And Jones is a nice all-around player for New Orleans as that team gears up for its playing game. So give me both those Pelicans guys against the Blazers tonight.
All right, Nick, talk to me.
Yeah, I have Herb Jones on my list as well for the Pelicans. Someone that, he could score 5 points, but he's probably going to get you 7 rebounds, a couple assists, might have 4 or 5 steals. I think he had 6 steals against the Lakers last week. And Portland, certainly a team to target in that regard. A few other names I'll throw out there. Trey Jones, I think still a pretty good value. No DeJounte Murray again, as he's still dealing with that non-COVID illness. So we should see Trey Jones start and play a bunch of minutes. Chris Dunn has reemerged out of nowhere for the Portland Trailblazers on the other side of that matchup against New Orleans. He's at 5,100, played 30 minutes last game. Minutes have been ticking up the last few. He's been racking up a ton of assists in that span. So, again, I can't really believe that I'm recommending Chris Dunn, but the numbers have been there. And then Chuba Okeke, I always like because he has defensive potential. He's at 4,900, good matchup against Charlotte. And Zach Collins from the Spurs, 4,500. He's very quietly played 25, 31, and 25 minutes over the last 3 games, and still no Jock Landale for the Spurs. So maybe that leads to a little bit more of a role for Zach Collins off the bench.
All right, Nick, over on the sportsbook, any game totals that you're looking at? That Spurs-Timberwolves game has the highest total on the slate, 241.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one I feel obligated to ride, right? I mean, they were involved in a game against Washington earlier this week that had a similarly high total. That one went over. Minnesota's averaging by far the most points in the NBA since the break. They're responsible for something like 15% of games this season where a team has scored 135 points. They do it more routinely than anyone else. And obviously the Spurs team is you never really know what you're getting night to night without DeJounte Murray. It's a little bit of a different outfit, and they've been playing much faster this season than Spurs teams of old. So yeah, it's a high total, but it's worked out more often than not with this Wolves team.
All right, Chinmay, any game totals that you're looking at?
Yeah, a couple. I got one over, which is Bucks Celtics. It's sitting at about 227 right now. I think the Celtics, even though they did play yesterday, I think Tatum and Brown will suit up for this game. It's a game that's got a lot of playoff seeding implications. Giannis should also suit up for this one. The Bucks have gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. And even though the Celtics are coming off a back-to-back, I do think, or coming off a game last night, so second game of a back-to-back for Boston, I still think those guys will play in a game that has a lot of stakes. And then the late game, Warriors-Lakers, I like the under on that one. The Lakers are probably going to rest all 3 of their stars, and the Warriors have gone under in their last 4 games and 6 of their last 10 games. So I like the under in that late game and the over in the early headliner for the doubleheader tonight.
And Chinmay, that Lakers-Warriors game, by the way, 1 of 3 games on the slate with double-digit spreads. Who do you think covers tonight?
I tend to avoid double-digit spreads just because the way the NBA functions with blowouts, teams start resting guys, and then somebody gets hot late. You never know how it's quite going to play out with the double-digit spreads. But I do like the 76ers to go up to Toronto and take this game. I know there's some questions about Matisse Thybulle, and there's going to be some rumors swirling about his status going forward. But I do like the 76ers to put all that aside and go up to Toronto and take this game. And I also like the Grizzlies. For some reason, the Grizzlies, even though they're locked into the number 2 seed, they keep fighting and they keep battling with guys who are playing well despite Ja Morant being out. These supporting players are playing well and getting into their element. So I like the Grizzlies at plus 4.5 against the Nuggets. They might not win the game, but I think they'll keep that close.
Yeah, Nick, that's a big one there between the 76ers and the Raptors. Obviously 4 and 5, 1.5 point spread.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that Philly, you could kind of say, like, do they want to win this? Do they want to potentially move all the way up to 1 or 2? I think if you're looking at a situation where you might have to play this team in the playoffs without Matisse Thybulle, who very clearly is not vaccinated, I think we could say that. There's a reason they listed him as ineligible for this game. I think if you're Philly, you want to win this. You want to avoid this matchup, and even if that means potentially facing Brooklyn in round 1, so be it. I don't think you want to risk, going up to Toronto and playing without by far your best wing defender against a team that has really good wings in the playoffs. So I like that call by Chinmay. The Warriors, it is a big spread, 12.5 over the Lakers. We'll see if LeBron plays. He needs to play in 2 of the final 3 games to qualify for the scoring title, although Joel Embiid passed him up. So he also needs to score a lot of points while playing in 2 of those games in order to reclaim that. If he doesn't play, man, I'm happy to chase the Warriors 12.5 because this Lakers team, man, I mean, we've talked about it really since January, since they went on this skid where they haven't won back-to-back games in like 40 games. It's ugly. It's really bad. You take LeBron out of the equation, they're basically a G League team. I mean, they've been as bad, or close to as bad, I should say, as Portland, OKC, Indiana, teams that are openly trying to lose games since the All-Star break.
All right, Nick, Chinmay, thank you. That is
Thanks,
a
guys.
show.
Yeah, apologies to Jeff and Pierce. We have run out of time.
Yeah, no football talk today. But we'll be back tomorrow
Sorry,
at 11
guys.
a.m. to talk about that stuff.
Maybe.
Meanwhile, at noon today, we got Lions at Jets kicking off Madden. Today at 5, the slate is going to be on. It's going to be Kaufman, Reed, and Bukes talking opening day and everything that's going on with the Masters.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, it is opening day. It is Masters Thursday. I'm just watching Tiger now. It's beautiful. He's wearing pink. I'm in love with him. And we will see everybody back here tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock
That
Eastern
felt like
time.
a weird confession. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 11.
See ya.